Picture this: a family grinds for 40 years building a fortune from scratch, piling up millions through sheer discipline and grit. Now, picture it all gone, poof, in less than 2 years after the inheritance is passed down. Now, this isn't some Hollywood melodrama. A study suggests it's the reality for 70% of wealthy families who pass on their assets. Even crazier, that number reportedly jumps to 90% by the time the grandkids are in charge. Now, when you hear that, your mind probably jumps to the usual suspects: a devastating market crash, a wild investment that went belly up, or maybe just way too much spending on yachts and private jets. But the research tells a totally different story. The number one reason generational wealth implodes isn't financial at all, it's human. It's a breakdown in trust and communication. It's heirs being completely unprepared. And it's a failure to pass down the number one thing more valuable than money: the mindset that built it in the first place. It's the curse behind that old proverb: shirt sleeves to shirt sleeves in 3 generations. The first generation builds it, the second generation enjoys it, and the third generation loses it, landing right back where their grandparents started. But what if it doesn't have to be your family story? What if there's a simple, repeatable way to stop this disaster in its tracks? Well, there is. It's not some ridiculously complex financial product or a secret tax dodge. It's a framework for building a wealth proof mindset, and it's called cash. Cash with a K. And we're going to go over what that really means. So, before we can fix the problem, we need to understand it. That 70% failure rate isn't just bad luck, it's a system of failure. Research by the William Group, which studied thousands of wealthy families over 2 decades, found something quite stunning. These massive losses were rarely caused by bad financial or tax advice. The real culprits were far more personal. Their analysis suggests that 60% of wealth loss was due to a breakdown in family communications and trust. Another 25% was because heirs were simply not prepared to handle money that they received. Now, let that sink in. Together, that's 85% of fortunes vanishing because families don't talk and the next generation is thrown into the deeps. This is what I call the founder's head trap. The person who built it all, the founder, keeps every critical piece of information locked up in their own mind. They know the business inside and out, why they made certain investments, and what the grand vision is. But they never transferred that wisdom. Maybe they were afraid of creating entitled kids, or they just they just think that they're not ready. So they say nothing. The result is pure chaos. When the wealth finally changes hands, it becomes as a total shock. With no content, no instruction manual, heirs are left staring at the portfolio they don't understand, a business they can't run, and zero connection to the values that built it all. They felt overwhelmed, underprepared, and alone. Is it any surprise that they make impulsive choices, fall for bad advice, or let family drama tear the whole legacy apart? The problem isn't the money, it's the vacuum of knowledge and purpose around it. This is exactly where cash framework comes in. It's a model designed to fill that vacuum and shift the family culture from secrecy to open stewardship. Now, don't get it twisted. This isn't cash with a C. This is cash with a K. And it's K, knowledge, A, attitude, S, skills, and H, habit. It's a system of deliberately building mindset of responsibility and long-term vision, ensuring the greatest asset you can pass down isn't your bank account, but the wisdom to make it grow for generations. First up, let's talk about K, which I stated before is knowledge. This is the direct antidote for the founder's head trap. It's about turning financial information from a private secret into shared family assets. The goal is dead simple: eliminate surprise. Your heirs should never be learning about assets, debt, or other duties for the first time in a lawyer's office after you're gone. This brings us to our first habit, the daily knowledge share. Now, this sounds way more intense than it is. It's about setting aside just 15 minutes a day to either write down or talk about one key piece of your financial world. This isn't about flashing your net worth. It's about explaining how and why behind your wealth. Now, simple hypothetical exercise showing how $100,000 invest with a 10% annual return could grow to over $1.6 million within 28 years can be a jaw-dropping lesson. Then another day you could explain the purpose of a will or trust in plain English. You can have a short chat over dinner, write in a journal your plan to pass on, or even just create a shared digital folder with key documents and short explanation. The method doesn't matter nearly as much as the consistency. By making financial knowledge a norm, part of the conversation, you demystify money and turn it from a source of fear into a topic of sharing and understanding. This builds a foundation of transparency and raises information stewards, not bewildered inheritors. Next, let's talk about A for attitude. This is all about shifting the family mindset from one of consumption to one of stewardship. The person who builds wealth usually has a deep seated sense of responsibility. They delayed gratification and made sacrifice, but for all their heirs, receiving the wealth can feel less like a hard earned reward and more like a lottery jackpot, which naturally leads to consumer mindset focus on spending. This is why the second habit is ownership, attitude, reflection. At the end of each day, just make a moment to think about one financial choice you've made, big or small, and ask yourself one simple question: did this choice build the legacy or did it diminish it? This isn't about guilt, it's about training your brain to think across generations. For an heir, that might sound like, should I book that insane luxury vacation right now, or should I use that cash to pay down the mortgage on a rental property that will generate income for my own kids someday? It's about consistently choosing to build long term assets over short term thrills. This habit fosters ownership mentality, which is the polar opposite of entitlement. Ownership means you take responsibility for the outcome, you're open to feedback, and you have the humility to say, I don't know. It's the belief that this wealth isn't just your personal piggy bank, but a multi generational responsibility to protect and grow. By practicing this small reflective habit, you and your family start treating the family fortune like a legacy is meant to be. We're only halfway through the cash framework, and you can already see how these simple shifts can change absolutely everything. If this is resonating with you, do me a quick favor and hit that like button and drop a comment below. Which of these first habits, the daily knowledge, share, or ownership attitude reflection, do you think will make the biggest impact on your family? And if you're serious about building a legacy, make sure you subscribe because we're about to get into practical exercises that make it all happen. Financial literacy is the foundation of preserving wealth. Without practical skills to manage money, even the best attitude in the world will fall flat. A huge percentage of heirs feel unprepared to manage what's coming their way, which is a direct line to losing it all. That's why our third habit is the weekly skill building practice. This means deciding a little time each week to practice one specific financial skill as a family. This is about doing, not just listening. For instance, one week you can sit down together and look at a diversified investment portfolio. You don't have to be a Wall Street guru, but you can point out the different asset classes, stock, bonds, real estate, and talk about how diversification is the key to managing risk. Another week, you could practice communication by talking through how you can handle a tough situation, like a family member asking for a big loan. You could also run through estate planning scenarios. What happens if assets are passed down? What are the taxes involved? You could get younger kids involved in age appropriate ways, like teaching them how to read a bank statement or explaining how a college savings plan work. The goal is to create a safe space to learn and make mistakes before the stakes are real. By building these core skills, financial literacy, communication, and strategic thinking, you're giving your heirs the actual tools they need, not to just protect inheritance, but to grow it. And to bring us to the final piece of the puzzle, H is for habits. Knowledge is what you know, attitude is how you think, skills are what you can do, but habits are what you do, what you actually do consistently, day in and day out. Routines are what lock us in this new mindset and make it stick. Wealth disappears when there's no discipline or structure. Habits create that structure. This leads us to our fourth habit, the monthly habit rhythm check. Think of this as a 30-minute family financial check in. The whole point is to review the routines you've set up. Are you still doing the daily knowledge shares? Have any major life events happen that means the estate plan needs a refresh? Is everyone still clear on their roles and responsibilities? It may sound a little formal, but this is exactly what successful businesses do to stay on track. It normalizes talking about money management and adds a layer of professionalism to the family's finances. It's a dedicated time to make sure all small positive actions aren't getting lost in the chaos of daily life. This consistent rhythm, a review, keeps a family from slowly drifting back into secrecy and confusion that destroys so much legacy. We've got four pillars: knowledge, attitude, skills, and habit. But how do we pull it all together into one powerhouse system that brings us to our final integrated habit, the quarterly legacy alignment session? That sounds wow. So, once every quarter, get the family together for a big picture conversation. This is where you bring every point of cash, K.A.S.H, to life. You share knowledge by openly discussing the family's assets, values, and vision. You reinforce attitude by focusing the conversation on stewardship and family mission. You practice skills by making decisions together or reviewing your strategic plan. And you solidify habits by making this meeting a non negotiable event on your family's calendar. This is where you talk about the wills and the trust. This is where you discuss charity goals and align your investments with your family's values. This is where you bring your heirs into the decision making process, modeling responsible leadership and building trust that is so tragically missing in most families. The numbers are a clear warning. A huge number of families lose it all. But this isn't destiny, it's a wake up call to be intentional. The shirt sleeve curse isn't a law of nature, it's a failure mindset. By adopting the K.A.S.H framework, K.A.S.H, through daily knowledge sharing, ownership, attitude reflection, weekly skills building, and monthly habit checks, all anchored by a quarterly legacy session. You are doing so much more than just planning a financial transaction. You are actively building a culture of competence, communication, and stewardship. You're giving your heirs the greatest inheritance of all, the ability to create their own legacy. It's not about money, it's about mindset, and it starts today. If this video gave you any new way to think about this, hit the like button and share it with someone who needs to hear it. And don't forget to subscribe for more strategies on building a legacy that lasts. Now, go start the conversation because the goal isn't just to retire well. Don't let your wealth die with you. Let it live on with purpose.